There comes a quiet moment in a woman's life when she no longer asks herself how to be chosen, and instead begins to ask who is worthy of standing beside her. This moment does not arrive with drama or confrontation. It arrives softly, like a shift in breathing, like a sudden stillness inside the chest. And yet, this is the exact moment when a man begins to change. Because effort is never born from persuasion. Effort is born from perception. When a woman holds high standards, she does not announce them. She does not explain them. She embodies them. And something ancient inside a man recognizes this immediately. His posture changes. His attention sharpens. His behavior becomes deliberate, not because he is forced, but because he feels that access to her is no longer guaranteed. As Carl Jung said, the unconscious reacts before the conscious mind understands. And long before a man can put words to it, he feels it. This woman does not bend to be kept. High standards are not rules imposed on others. They are boundaries rooted in self-respect. They are the silent refusal to accept inconsistency, confusion, or half-presence. And this refusal creates tension, not conflict, but psychological tension, the kind that awakens effort. You see, a man rises not when he is chased, but when he senses elevation. When he realizes that being close to you requires growth, that your world is full even without him, that your time, attention, and emotional presence are not freely available to anyone who shows interest. This is where the dynamic shifts. A woman with high standards does not demand effort, she elicits it. Her calm exposes immaturity. Her clarity confronts laziness. Her self-containment makes shortcuts impossible. And suddenly, a man must choose, remain as he is, or rise to meet her. Jung believed that growth occurs when the ego is challenged by something greater than itself. And this is exactly what happens here. Your standards become a mirror. They show him who he is, and who he would need to become to stay. This is why some men withdraw, and why others step forward with surprising strength. Because high standards do not repel masculine energy, they refine it. And if you feel this awakening inside you now, this quiet certainty that you no longer need to lower yourself to be loved, then understand this. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming unmistakable. This is only the beginning. A man does not show effort when he feels secure in complacency. He shows effort when something inside him senses challenge without threat. And this distinction is everything. High standards do not humiliate a man, they awaken him. When you no longer tolerate mixed signals, postponed intentions, or emotional vagueness, something subtle happens. You remove the illusion that love is endless access. And in that moment, his nervous system registers a shift. He feels that you are not waiting. You are living. And that realization creates urgency. Carl Jung wrote that where fear is, there is your task. For a man, the fear is not losing control. It is losing significance. And a woman with standards quietly touches that fear without ever naming it. You don't threaten to leave. You don't issue ultimatums. You simply stop accommodating what feels misaligned. And suddenly, he feels the weight of his choices. This is why men rise for women who hold high standards. Because standards create consequence. They reveal that presence matters, that absence has cost, that effort is noticed, and lack of effort is felt. A woman with standards does not overexplain her expectations. She trusts that what matters does not need translation. She observes behavior more than words. She values consistency over intensity. And this forces a man out of performance and into authenticity. If he wants access to her emotional world, he must participate consciously. Jung believed that the masculine principle seeks purpose. And when a woman embodies self-worth, she becomes a purpose, not an object to win, but a reality to rise toward. Her life does not revolve around him, and this paradoxically draws him closer. Because now, effort is no longer a strategy, it is a requirement for connection. Some men resist this. They call it too much, too demanding, too complicated. But this is merely the ego defending its comfort. A mature man feels something else entirely: respect. He understands that a woman who respects herself will not negotiate her inner order for external validation. And that awareness pulls something noble out of him, or exposes what was never there. High standards do not guarantee effort from every man. They guarantee clarity. And clarity is the greatest filter there is. As you hold your standards without apology, without explanation, without hardness, you begin to notice something remarkable. Men stop testing how little they can give and start wondering how much they can become. And this is where real effort begins. There is a truth many women resist, not because it is false, but because it feels uncomfortable to accept. A man rarely rises in an environment where nothing is required of him. When standards are low, effort has no direction. It dissolves. A man may feel desire, attraction, even affection, but without structure, these emotions scatter. They do not mature into action. They remain potential, not reality. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the undeveloped parts of the psyche that remain dormant unless confronted. Low standards allow the shadow to remain asleep. High standards gently force it into awareness. When a woman accepts inconsistency, emotional ambiguity, or minimal presence, she unintentionally communicates something dangerous: that depth is optional. And when depth is optional, a man unconsciously chooses ease over evolution. This is not cruelty. It is psychology. A man does not fully respect what he does not need to rise toward. And respect is the soil where effort grows. You may have noticed this pattern before. The more accommodating you became, the less attentive he grew. The more patient you were with confusion, the more confused the connection became. Not because you lacked value, but because your value was made too accessible to be recognized. Jung believed that the psyche moves toward balance. When you give too much without receiving, imbalance forms. An imbalance slowly erodes attraction. High standards restore balance. They say, without words, I meet you where there is mutual presence. I stay where there is reciprocity. I invest where there is growth. And in response, a man must either adjust or retreat. This is why some men disappear when a woman raises her standards. They were never rejecting her. They were rejecting the version of themselves that would be required to stay. A man who is capable of effort does not fear standards. He welcomes them because they give him orientation. They tell him where to place his energy, how to show up, how to build something real. Effort, after all, is not about chasing. It is about alignment. And when you no longer lower yourself to maintain connection, you make space for a man who understands that love is not something you fall into. It is something you rise to. This understanding changes everything. There is a precise moment when a man stops reacting to a woman and begins responding to her. This moment is subtle, but decisive. It happens when he understands that access to her is no longer automatic. High standards create psychological gravity. You no longer rush to close emotional gaps. You no longer rescue connection with explanations. You no longer soften your truth to protect his comfort. And suddenly, he feels something unfamiliar: responsibility. Carl Jung believed that maturity begins when a person takes responsibility for their inner life instead of outsourcing it to others. When you stop carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you, a man is forced to carry his own. And that pressure either collapses him or strengthens him. This is where effort is born. Effort emerges when a man realizes that your presence is not guaranteed by desire alone. That liking you is not enough. That intention must be followed by action. And this realization does not come from confrontation. It comes from your consistency. You remain warm, but unavailable to confusion. Open, but closed to inconsistency. Present, but not endlessly accessible. This combination is powerful because it removes all ambiguity. He cannot rely on charm. He cannot rely on excuses. He cannot rely on potential. He must rely on behavior. A woman with high standards does not punish a man for falling short. She simply does not build with him there. And that boundary speaks louder than disappointment ever could. Jung would say that such a woman activates the animus, the inner masculine principle, not by submission, but by integrity. Her life is ordered. Her energy is contained. Her direction is clear. And clarity is deeply activating to masculine psychology. That is why a man begins to plan more carefully, communicate more clearly, show up more intentionally, not because he fears losing you, but because he respects what you represent. And here is the truth few speak aloud. Effort feels meaningful to a man only when it leads somewhere solid. Your standards make the path visible. They show him that love is not chaos. That closeness has structure. That connection has depth. And if he is capable, he will rise, not reluctantly, but with purpose. Because when a woman stands firmly in her value, she does not ask a man to prove himself. She gives him the opportunity to become himself. At some point, a man realizes that you are no longer emotionally available by default, and this realization rearranges his inner world. Before, he may have felt that you were always there, patient, understanding, forgiving, open. Your presence felt steady, almost infinite. But when your standards rise, that infinity becomes defined, and definition creates value. Carl Jung said that nothing has a stronger psychological effect than the unanswered question. High standards turn you into that question. You stop filling the silence. You stop interpreting his moods. You stop adapting to emotional inconsistency. And in this space, he begins to feel his own lack of movement. This is the moment when effort becomes personal, not because he wants to impress you, but because he feels himself reflected in your calm restraint. Your standards expose the difference between who he is being and who he could be, and this contrast awakens either ambition or withdrawal. A woman with high standards does not emotionally overinvest early. She allows time to reveal truth. She lets behavior speak before attachment forms. And this pacing unsettles men who rely on urgency and charm, but stabilizes men who value substance. He begins to feel that your attention is earned through consistency, not secured through words. And that changes how he positions himself emotionally. He becomes more careful, more intentional, more accountable. This is not manipulation. This is maturity meeting maturity. Jung believed that love fails when people seek completion instead of connection. When you are complete within yourself, you no longer cling. And a man senses this independence immediately. It shifts the power dynamic, not into dominance, but into balance. And balance demands effort. Because now, if he wants closeness, he must bring himself fully. Not partially, not temporarily, not when convenient. Your standards are not walls. They are thresholds, and only a man willing to cross them consciously will remain. This is why high standards do not make you lonely, they make you precise. They do not reduce your options, they refine them. And in that refinement, a man either rises with clarity or fades without conflict. Either way, you remain aligned with yourself. There comes a moment when a man understands something without being told. The version of him that once had access to you is no longer enough. This realization does not come from rejection. It comes from contrast. You no longer overextend. You no longer wait in emotional suspension. You no longer reward inconsistency with understanding. And in this quiet shift, he feels a loss of position. Carl Jung believed that transformation begins when the old identity can no longer survive in the present reality. Your standards create exactly this psychological environment. They do not shame him, they simply outgrow him. And that is far more confronting. A woman with high standards does not say, "You must change." Her life says it for her. Your rhythm becomes steady. Your emotional responses become measured. Your attention becomes selective. And suddenly, he feels behind. This is when effort becomes unavoidable. Because now, remaining passive costs him something real. He feels your emotional distance not as punishment, but as consequence. He understands that comfort has ended. That access now requires intention. That presence must be consistent to be felt. Jung would describe this as the ego encountering its limit. And when the ego reaches its limit, it either collapses or matures. Some men attempt to regain control through charm or promises. Others retreat into silence. But the man who is capable of growth does something different. He adjusts his behavior without being asked. He begins to initiate. He follows through. He becomes reliable. Not to win you, but to meet you. This is the difference between effort driven by fear and effort driven by respect. Fear produces temporary action. Respect produces transformation. And respect is born when a man sees that you are not waiting for him to become better. You are already living well. Your standards show him that love is not a place to hide. It is a place to show up. And if he chooses to rise, he does so knowing that this time, it is not about holding on to you. It is about becoming someone who belongs beside you. This is where real effort begins. There is a profound difference between a man who tries and a man who rises. Trying is reactive. Rising is internal. When your standards are clear, effort stops being a performance and becomes a response to inner alignment. A man no longer asks, "What do I need to do to keep her?" He begins to ask, "Who do I need to be to stand here?" And that question changes everything. Carl Jung believed that real change occurs when behavior aligns with identity. When a man feels that your presence requires maturity, consistency, and depth, his effort stops feeling heavy. It stops feeling like pressure. It becomes meaningful. This is why high standards do not exhaust the right man. They organize him. He no longer wastes energy on ambiguity. He no longer hesitates in indecision. He no longer hides behind potential. Your clarity gives his actions direction. A woman with standards does not monitor effort. She does not measure texts, count gestures, or negotiate presence. She lives her life fully, and in doing so, reveals what participation truly looks like. And a man who wants to be part of that life understands that half effort has no place there. This is when you notice something subtle but powerful. He begins to act without being reminded. He plans ahead. He follows through. He shows emotional steadiness, not because he fears losing you, but because he feels grounded with you. Jung would say that this is the moment the masculine finds structure through meaning. Your standards give meaning to his effort. They turn action into contribution, not obligation. And here is the quiet truth. A man feels pride when he shows effort that is worthy of you. That pride strengthens him. It deepens his presence. It anchors him emotionally. Because now, effort is no longer something he gives to avoid loss. It is something he gives because it reflects who he is becoming. This is why the right man does not complain about standards. He grows into them. And the more firmly you remain rooted in yourself, the more natural his effort becomes, steady, consistent, and real. Because when a woman knows her value, effort stops being asked for. It is simply offered. When your standards rise, something inevitable happens. Not everyone can stay. This is not failure. This is revelation. A man who was comfortable when you were accommodating often becomes uncomfortable when you become clear. Not because you changed, but because the terms changed. And clarity removes places to hide. Carl Jung said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. High standards force that encounter. When you no longer chase connection, he must confront his passivity. When you no longer explain your worth, he must confront his inconsistency. When you no longer wait, he must confront his lack of direction. And many men are not ready for that mirror. They may accuse you of being distant, too selective, too firm, too much. But what they are really reacting to is the loss of emotional comfort they once had without responsibility. A woman with high standards no longer cushions a man from the consequences of his behavior. She does not punish. She simply responds truthfully. And truth destabilizes those who relied on illusion. This is why some men fade quietly. They sense that the emotional terrain has changed. That shortcuts no longer work. That vague intentions no longer buy time. And rather than rise, they retreat. This is not because you were asking for too much. It is because you stopped accepting too little. Jung believed that every psychological step forward costs the ego something. And men who are not ready to pay that cost will choose distance over development. But notice something important. When these men leave, your peace remains. Because you did not lose connection, you lost misalignment. And in that space, something powerful opens. You no longer confuse chemistry with capacity. You no longer mistake attention for intention. You no longer invest where effort is inconsistent. Your standards protect your energy. They protect your time. They protect your emotional depth. And the man who is meant to rise for you will not be threatened by this. He will feel invited, not to impress, but to participate fully. Because high standards do not reject men. They reveal them. And that revelation brings you closer to the connection that does not require endurance, only presence. We are nearing the final turn of this understanding. At some point, something settles inside you. You stop waiting for proof. You stop hoping effort will appear. You stop negotiating with potential. And this inner shift changes everything. Because now, your standards are no longer something you maintain. They are something you are. Carl Jung described this as individuation, the moment a woman stops orienting her life around reaction and begins living from inner authority. When this happens, your energy becomes coherent. There is no split between what you feel, what you allow, and what you choose. A man senses this immediately. He feels that you are not testing him. You are not evaluating him. You are not trying to be chosen. You are simply present and selective. This is where you become unmissable. Not louder, not colder, not harder, but grounded. Your boundaries are calm. Your expectations are quiet. Your availability is intentional. And because there is no emotional chaos around you, a man can no longer rely on confusion to stay relevant. He must either show up clearly or disappear naturally. Jung believed that when a person stands in their truth, they activate both attraction and fear in others. Attraction in those who are ready, fear in those who are not. And this explains why, when you reach this stage, men respond very differently to you than before. Some suddenly step up with clarity and consistency. Others vanish without explanation. And for the first time, this does not wound you. Because you understand something now. Effort is not something you extract from a man. It is something he offers when he feels aligned. Your standards have removed desperation from the equation. You no longer mistake anxiety for passion or persistence for love. You recognize effort not by intensity, but by stability. And this recognition changes the way you bond. You choose slowly. You attach consciously. You remain whole. And from this place, the man who rises for you does so not because you demanded it, but because your presence made anything less feel insufficient. This is the power of high standards. They do not control outcomes. They transform who enters your life. And now, there is only one part left. And now, we arrive at the quiet truth that ties everything together. A man does not rise because a woman asks him to. He rises because remaining the same no longer works in her presence. This is the power you have stepped into. You no longer chase effort. You no longer explain expectations. You no longer tolerate almost, maybe, someday. You have become a woman whose life is already full, and that fullness demands intention from anyone who enters it. Carl Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when you become that woman, whole, self-directed, emotionally sovereign, effort stops being a question mark. It becomes a response. A man feels that with you. There is no room for pretense, no reward for inconsistency, no comfort in stagnation. And instead of feeling controlled, he feels called forward. Because your standards are not about him, they are about you. You do not need to threaten departure. Your alignment already speaks. You do not need to demand clarity. Your presence requires it. And you do not need to convince a man to rise. The right one will feel that staying low is no longer an option. This is why men show effort for women with high standards. Not because these women are colder, but because they are clearer. Not because they withhold love, but because they no longer give it away without depth. And the most powerful part? You are no longer defined by who rises for you. You are defined by who you allow to walk beside you. From this place, love stops feeling like a struggle. Connection stops feeling uncertain. Effort stops feeling rare. Because you have changed the conditions. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing, calmly, consciously, without fear. And any man who stands with you now does so not out of convenience, not out of habit, but out of respect. This is what makes a man rise. And this is who you have become.